China stepped up, adding tariffs, they said. Did anyone actually watch the interview on BBC News? I don't know if any of you saw it in the States, but in the UK, where the Chinese representative was saying quite clearly, we don't need the US. And in this live stream, I'm going to explain to you why they don't. The main thing that he did say was, we've been around for 5,000 years, so we've been doing all right. Yeah, it does look like it's going to be the case of fighting to the end. Now you're starting to see old footage of all of these. I don't even know if I don't even remember what the guy's name is, but he's talking about fighting to the end. Look, the mentality of the Chinese is there. They are stubborn. They're going to make sure that they will never be seen as backing down. Now, it's not about tariffs or about trade. It's about honor. And Chinese, man, you can't mess with that. We've had some good news for cryptocurrency. Trump's obviously signed a nice little order saying or relaxing the story behind DeFi. That's great news for cryptocurrency. BlackRock's bought $6.5 million worth of Ethereum for the ETH ETF. And cryptocurrency is looking like it's moving. It looks like it's making a nice little move to the upside. But the problem that we've got is we've just had the news come out saying that the PPI, which is the cost of goods and services, it's actually come down. That's great news. I mean, yesterday inflation came down. That was even better news. The market said, nope, not interested. Took a slump. So what's really going on, guys? Well, the market right now doesn't know where to put their money. Does it make sense for you to start buying stocks, especially with dollars? Nope. This live's going to break it all down for you. And I'm going to help you identify and understand where China's position is right now so that you can understand who really has the bargaining tool here. Who is really ahead? Is it Trump or is it Xi Jinping? Cast your votes, ladies and gentlemen. Who's ahead, China or the US? Let's get with the program, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. So, firstly, mad love and respect. Welcome to today's live stream. Sorry I didn't address you all. Please forgive me. Pattern watchers checking in. Like the stream. It doesn't cost you anything. Just roll with the flavor. Here we go. So S&P 500 takes a little bit of a tumble yesterday. And of course, the Chinese feud has actually started to heat up. We've got this story here. Trump trade war with China revives recession. Recession, ladies and gentlemen. The bear market fears. Tino is bearish. Like, look, let's be honest now, okay? When Bitcoin hit its first all-time high of around 69,000 and it kept on going down and down and down and down, how many of you were like, yeah, it's bullish, it's bullish, it's bullish, it's bullish? And then it goes from 69,000 all the way down to 16,000. Were you all still maintaining the idea of bullish or just hoping that at some point in the future, Bitcoin would come back up? That is dead because there's no strategy to it on holding on to a hope. Yeah, time has actually saved your ass in the sense that everything came back up again. But what I like to try and do is try and get you to think about it in the sense, well, if it's going down, how can I capitalize on that? If that's going down, where can I move my money? Where else am I going to put it? Am I going to just leave it in there and just hope that it comes back up? Hope, ladies and gentlemen, is not an indicator. We are speculators in nature. So we're always going to be anticipating where it might go, where it might end up. What can we do with our cash? And this is the question that everybody's asking right now. Everything's starting to go down. Fear, tariffs, war, trade war. We're not going into war, ladies and gentlemen. China and US will never go to war. They're a little bit too... That's such a costly thing. But this tariff story, realistically, does China need the US? Check this out. What would it do to the economy or the world's economy? Well, if they're talking about recession, right? Firstly, we need to go over to this chart right here. This is the global recession probability chart. If it's above 50, then that tells us that we are more than likely going to go into a recession. 26, man. We're doing good. That doesn't mean it can't spike. Why are we talking about a recession? Are they just scaremongering people? Or are they trying to get rid of all the people that are holding on to stock right now just to sell it so all the big boys can go in and buy it? What would China and US not trading together cause in the marketplace? Well, it will hurt the US more than it would hurt China. According to this information right here, ladies and gentlemen, the US imported far more from China, 440 billion. The US knocked on China's door and said, we want that, we want that, we need that, we want that. And that comes to a fee of 440 billion, or an amount. China said the same thing and was like, okay, we'll just take a little bit of that. We'll have some of that. Yeah, we like the idea of that. We'll add some of that. And that only came to 145 billion. So who needs who? US needs China. It's simple as that. So even if Trump is putting all these tariffs on, China's sat back and everyone's like, what's going to happen to China? What's going to happen to China? Well, things have been slowing down in China, to say the least. In front of you is the global Shanghai Export Containerized Freight Index, okay? That's been going down anyway. And that was sparked from the idea of COVID. So from COVID, it started to roll down. They started to slow things down. And you can see, economically speaking, that they haven't been really doing too well because they peaked out with the import-export story. And then it's all started to come back down again, okay? So China is experiencing a little bit of pain, but China is sat on minerals that Trump would love to get access to. I don't know if any of you remember, but do you remember back in the day when China put a cap on the rare earth metals? It put a cap of up to 60% on exports. That increased the prices of rare earth metals significantly, to the point when the US went to the World Trade and was like, listen, man, you've got to get them to do something because this is not sustainable. We can't be paying so much. This is why Trump's always banging on about the fact that China has been sticking it to the US and everyone's been taking advantage of the United States for such a long time. That's why Trump is standing and holding on to his guns about this tariff story. Now, something that has really caught my attention, which some of you may or may not be aware of, okay? That is unbelievable. For those of you that are new, this is the CME FX swap rate monitor, which effectively tells you if you were to change euros or dollars into euros, what's the rate that you're getting. Yesterday, over a 2-day period, you were getting 13.96% on the euro. That's why the euro pumped yesterday, okay? Today, it's 26.91%. If you fancy a stab at the yen, you're getting 61.8%. Do you understand what's going on right now? These are just stupid little figures that people look at. But when you understand the implications of this, for one day, I can exchange my dollars and chuck them into euros. I'm getting 26.91%. And that's why it's only for days till maturity, till expiry. 1 day. That's the rate. That is unbelievable. Going over to the euro, what do we know? Well, the euro itself is sitting nicely at the highs. Yep, up 1.7%. Ladies and gentlemen, the euro never used to move like this, man. Let's jump back 10 years ago. It never moved like that. Never. Euro's behaving like a meme coin. It's doing better than XRP. That's one thing for sure. Look at the Japanese yen. That's the 4-hour time frame. Let's go into the 1-hour chart. Put it into spec. Why is TradingView running so slow? What the hell is going on here? Oh, come on. Where's my yen? There she is. That right there, guys, is carry trade. I'm going to say it to you now, right? Secretly or deep down. No, that's not the word. Carry trade is unwinding, in my opinion. Carry trade is going to screw everyone. All right? This movement in the Japanese yen is not sustainable for anyone else. All right? This keeps on going. It's just giving me more and more of an understanding. And we're heading back into the carry trade unwind highs. Okay? The more the yen goes up, the more investors are seeking the safe haven of it because they're certainly not going into cash. That's one thing for sure. And those that borrowed the yen and exchanged it to dollars, they better do bloody something quick time. Why? Because the dollar dominance itself is down 19. You are losing holding dollars. So why would you buy stock? You are now having to pay more in terms of purchasing power to hold US stock. Your dollar is deemed worthless. And I think that Trump is completely aware of what's going on. He knows his dollar's going to get smacked. But I think I know the trigger. The trigger for me, ladies and gentlemen, is the 10-year. The 10-year will come down and clear this gap. The 10-year yield will go to 5%. That's when you'll get the turn in the marketplace. That's when your liquidity comes back in. Remember what they said yesterday in the cabinet? They've raised the debt ceiling, and we don't need to worry about that for 2 years. No one's talked about it. Do you understand that? That is just undermining the US debt. At the same time, Besant has been saying that holding US debt is very important, and it's one of the safest options. It clearly isn't. Because by focusing on the yields, you are then coming to the understanding that if the government is offering higher rates of return to buy their debt and no one is picking it up because they're spending more time going over to the yen, they're spending more time going over to the euro because that's where the money is at. It's right there in your face. 26.9%, 61.8%. So what about Bitcoin? Well, unfortunately, Bitcoin is deemed as a risky asset. Now, going over to Bitcoin, we can see Bitcoin is currently trading at the significant lows, not the significant highs, the significant lows, okay? And that's quite sad, actually, when you think about it, given that the actual order that Trump signed, he said he signed history by becoming the first US president to sign a crypto-related bill into law, overturning an IRS rule that threatened the future of DeFi. Trump, we want you to sign an order and make it into law that the US is going to buy Bitcoin. Scrap this DeFi business, all right? We want him to start buying crypto, but it doesn't look like he's putting anything out yet. And that's what's got my attention. Now, with that being said, the story with China is starting to get very interesting. We've had good news about JPMorgan, which the market would likely welcome. But when you dive into it, they've really made their money just on transactions and revenues from market making fees, okay? It's not really from investments as such. Goes into it and says here, where is it? The company's strong performance was driven by various factors, including higher asset management fees and increased markets revenue and robust growth in client investment assets. Okay. So what's going on here is investors are naturally, when you look at this, right? Think about what's going on. Increased markets revenue and robust growth in client investment assets. So what's going on? Investors in JPMorgan are trying to scurry to try and get into assets that they can actually generate a yield. Whilst all of that is happening, JPMorgan are generating management fees. That's why it doesn't matter if the ETF balance goes up or down, because BlackRock's going to sit nicely with earnings off the BlackRock ETF. Doesn't care about Bitcoin's price. It's now got 570,000. We've seen a little bit of selling happening, and BlackRock has been busy this week selling ETF, Bitcoin ETF, even though the outflows were around 770 million. So that's all right. I can deal with that. It's fluctuating. As long as this balance doesn't go down below 500,000, then I think we're all right and we're in a good spot. Okay. Wells Fargo hasn't done too well. They came short as deposit costs rise and loan growth slows. So what does that tell you? It tells you now that investors aren't really borrowing US dollars. Why? Well, it's evident right here. Look, your 5-year yield's going up. Your 30-year yield is just about to surpass the 5% mark. But the sweet spot is the 10-year yield. That bad boy goes to 5%, ladies and gentlemen. That's when you start buying US bonds, in my opinion. Okay? Quickly going over into other assets across the board. Let's just quickly dive into some important things like gold. All-time high. Chilling. Relaxing. Why is gold gone up? Why has gold gone up? I mean, look. CPI data's come in really nice. Or sorry, PPI. Came in at minus 0.1%. PPI month-on-month came in at minus 0.4%. So hold on a second, Tino. Inflation yesterday came in at 2.4%, lower than what they expected, right? CPI month-on-month came in at minus 0.1%. And then, of course, the core CPI came in at 0.1%. So, wait a second. The market should have rallied yesterday. Well, why didn't it? Well, what you've got to understand is the market right now is trying to navigate whether tariffs are going to be a problem, or is just inflation going to be a problem? Or is tariff inflation going to be a problem for the future? And what's going on is they're not even reacting to this information because they know that inflation is going to be happening in the future. Given that the PPI has now come down, it means cost of goods and services are coming lower. Why? Because the economy is looking like it's starting to struggle. Why? Because consumers might not be spending the money. So manufacturers and producers are effectively reducing the cost of their goods just to encourage people to start buying. How many of you are going around in your local area and you're seeing banners or there's lots of discounts being offered? How many of you can you say that you're seeing banners that are saying discounted price here, you know, get $30, $40, $100 off? How many companies are offering discounts? Okay. That will kind of give you an idea that they're trying to stimulate people to spend. Now, in today's data, we're getting the preliminary consumer sentiment. They're expecting it to come in lower, so at 54.0. So that tells us that sentiment across the board is starting to wane off. So even the consumer's like, I'm not going to be spending money. What does that mean? Well, it means that the Federal Reserve needs to cut the interest rates. But the expectation is that they're going to keep it at 4.25, 4.5% because the tariffs are going to be a little bit of a problem. And they're projecting the idea that inflation could go up because of tariffs. China's already smacked to the bottom. Its dollar, in principle, well, the yuan is so undervalued. It's crazy, but it's not anything that they can't handle anyway. Look at the Japanese yen. That is undervalued like crazy, but it's the cheapest place to borrow money right now. That's why no one's involved in the dollar. They're all going to euro and they're all going to the yen. That means what? They're buying yen stock. They're buying European stock. You ain't going to be buying no other stock, no Nvidia, no nothing. Why? Because the purchasing power of the dollar is shit. They have to pay more to hold the stock. Well, I may as well go and borrow some yen and use that yen and start plowing into the markets of Japan. Given that Japan's trying to pump liquidity, China wants to stimulate their economy. Why am I going to go into the US? No one's buying the bonds, let alone go and buy Nvidia. So then we ask ourselves the question, is Bitcoin going to go up or down? Do you guys believe that Bitcoin has bottomed out? I don't think it has bottomed out. And I'm not bearish. I'm just saying to you that Bitcoin is deemed as a high risk asset. Investors are not going into Bitcoin. They're going into safety. This is store of value. This is a hedge. This is a safe haven. That's gold. You want Bitcoin to be like that. Yes. But isn't it surprising that it's not? There's a supply, man. Now, something would have to happen today to really send Bitcoin higher, all right? Something mad would need to happen. Either Trump's backed off on the tariffs, China's contacted Trump and said, we're going to do a deal with you. Those are realistically the only things that could lead Bitcoin to move up today. Because we've got this red vector candle zone right here, that Bitcoin could potentially come and attack at some point. There is a possibility that it could take it. You've also got this green vector candle region down here that Bitcoin hasn't finished clearing out just yet. The order flow is suggesting that we have got quite a few people looking to offer Bitcoin. Yeah? Equally, we've got a few people wanting to really bid Bitcoin's price down here, like 28. Wow. Okay, hold on. I think we got an iceberg order here. Look, let's go into it. 13 million at 80,783. Go up a little bit. 5 million. No. 28 million at 81,288. That's a bid to buy. There we go. And another bid at 81,288. Hold on. Is that the same one? 81.28. Where did I just see it? Yeah, it's the same flipping thing. Yeah, it's the same order. Bloody hell. Why does it do this? I thought I saw it twice. That's blagged my brain. Anyways, never mind. No, I saw these fat orders. Where are they? Give me a second. Hold on, here we go. Large limit order. All right, so listen, this is for the holders, okay? And this is good to know. At 81,588, we've got a bid for 30 million, okay? And then we go further down. Another bid at 81,400 for 31 million. Another bid at 81,300 for 30 million again. We've got a bid at 81,288 for 28 million. And then we go even further down into it. 15 million at 80,000. And then that's it. Just in the 80,000 region. So those orders effectively are iceberg orders. So for anyone that doesn't know, it's an order that makes up a bigger order. So if it's $100 million iceberg, okay, they might split it into 20 orders of 5, okay, and they will plant those bids as price goes down, and then comes back up again. So that's the logic of an iceberg order. That's what we could be witnessing right there, okay. Let's go over to the NASDAQ and the S&P. NASDAQ, S&P. Look, this is what I came to understand yesterday, okay? This 12% increase on the NASDAQ, phenomenal amount of liquidity that came in. It was $1.5 trillion, okay? Remember, we've just lost 10 trillion. There's 8.5 trillion to go to bring it all the way back up. We need 8.5 trillion to go back into the marketplace to bring us back to break even on the idea of a NASDAQ or an S&P at 6,133. That's what we need, okay? We are right now in bear market territory, okay? So what we got to look at is we take the high, go down, and we've corrected 21% on the S&P, 26% on the NASDAQ. You're in a bear market, okay? Now, the retrace back up needs to be sustained. But because we haven't had the pricing in of the tariffs, and there is something messed up happening in the marketplace, firstly, gold's trading at all-time highs, dollar is getting violated, yen and euro are completely flying to the moon, the 10-year bond market is absolute dog shit, and you've, of course, got the 2-year yield getting ready to climb up, and the 10-year yield is itching towards that 5% mark, which I will say, again, it hits 5%, you're going to get yourself an influx of liquidity going into the 10-year bonds. Okay, I think when it hits that point, then that's yippee-ki-yay. But like I said earlier on about the carry trade principle, okay, if the carry trade unwinds, fundamentally, everyone should be going into the 10-year to seek safety. They're not there yet. So maybe if the 10-year yield shoots up to 5%, that would be the point where the carry trade comes in, yen goes up, euro goes up, and keeps on going up. If we just actually go over to the euro itself, just to understand where we are on the highest time frame possible, just look at where we are on the 3-day chart for the euro. Euro still got plenty of room to climb. Plenty of room to climb. Look at these vectors over here. They've recovered this area. They've broken this resistance. This is absolutely crazy, all right? And they could easily come back up into these ranges over here. Easily come back to the 1.19. Easily come back and test out these highs. Easily, okay? And that's your trade war. And then that's going to end up sending your dollar to areas that we have not been to in a while, but nothing that we ain't familiar with. You know? Daily time frame. Holders. You need Bitcoin. And we're going back into it now. Okay? Principally, you need Bitcoin to print at least 3 candles in towards this candle, this 50 EMA. That's what it needs to do. You need something like this. See these? That's what you're looking for. From a structural point of view, you need to see accumulation coming in. If you don't see that, then you are then going to be asking yourself the question, do I do my buying here? Do I DCA now? Okay? Do I get involved in this now and I run the risk based on the macros and the reactions to the marketplace? Do I run the risk of actually seeing a drawdown? Like I said before, I'm looking for Bitcoin to eat this liquidity down here. That's what I'm looking for Bitcoin to do next. And it's not too far away. And it is still deemed as a plausible point in the chart. Now, most people are saying that Bitcoin has bottomed out right now at the 74,517 region, okay? Fundamentally, we've got a trade war between China and the US. Principally, it's going to impact the situation with trade everywhere around the world. And then anyone that's going against the US is going to be deemed as an enemy, and that's how the US sees things. And you've got to really say to yourself, how are investors going to position themselves? Well, they're already sort of positioning themselves, but they're not going into conventional assets that would be deemed as a place that they can position themselves for. The US bond market is going down. The yields are going up, putting pressure on the United States, especially when it comes to the refinancing of that $9 trillion. It's now getting done at higher rates. Besant did say yesterday, refinancing of the debt ceiling. They're actually raising that for the next 2 years. You don't need to worry about it. So all of the work that Trump's trying to get done is just going to be overwritten anyway because they're increasing the debt ceiling. He chucked that in so quick in the cabinet meeting, no one paid attention to it. No one. So I'm just going to print. So in other words, all of what we're witnessing in the stock market technically doesn't need to have happened. They're going to increase the debt ceiling. No point. Any questions? Any questions? Questions. Buy gold, buy gold. Tino, can you show the volume accumulation thing and explain? For the NASDAQ. Here we go. Well, we spoke about this yesterday, right? And if you are new, completely new to the channel, this is the market search. And it just gives me a little bit of a breakdown on what I expect, what we can expect from the stock market, all right? So stock action says up on volume, 129 stocks. Down on volume, 1,537. If you watched yesterday's live stream, or the day before that, okay, before the big, on the big pump Wednesday, it was 3,145 stocks that were up on volume, okay? Down on volume was around 56 stocks that were down. So it was a very small amount of stocks that were negative, okay? Breaking out was it was 3 stocks. Today it's 1, or yesterday's action was 1, and there are 7 stocks near a pivot, okay? You're in a bear market. How can you have 3,145 stocks do well, and now you've got 1,537 stocks doing bad? That was yesterday's price action. It's not making sense. Now, if you want me to maintain the idea of being optimistic and to the moon and what have you, wake up, man. I've had so many people comment to me saying, Tina, you're always talking about the negative stuff. FUD. Fuck that, man. Let's be honest. It goes up and it goes down. And if this is the crazy thing. The Dow Jones has corrected, but it's still up nearly 60%. Like 59% given the last couple of days. It's still up, and the stock market will always recover itself. Because this is what happens. Markets expand and they contract. We're going in a contractionary phase right now. What's wrong with that? Now you're either going to get a cheaper Bitcoin, cheaper NASDAQ, cheaper Nvidia. But because what's going on is gold is maneuvering right now. And it's just giving you where investor sentiment is at. Well, if investor sentiment is saying that they need a safe haven, they're concerned about things. So they're now rejigging where their money's going to sit until they can then take it out and put it elsewhere. Look at the ETFs on gold. Flying up. And already the ETF market is packed with $6.5 trillion worth of liquidity in there, trying to work out what it's going to do. And once the liquidity leaves the ETF market and goes into high risk, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to have yourself the wildest bull market on earth. That's it. This is the CME stuff right here, my friend. Okay? This is the CME stuff. So it's between brokers, hedge fund managers, and all that fun and games. But this is the rates that they're looking at. Okay. Quickly going back into it. Let me just relaunch this. What time are we on? Okay. 2 minutes until the Viva La market opens. Have we liked the stream? 400. And I don't know what it is, man. But you guys, you only like 402. 402 likes. 1,851 of you beautiful people. Happy days. Like the stream, ladies and gentlemen. Please like the stream. It costs you nothing. Like the stream. No tariffs on the likes. All right, so yesterday's price action, volume above average on the 50-day line, over the 50-day line right there, volume above average. For every positive bar that we're seeing is being countered by a negative bar. And you can see, if you look closely, this is where the open and the close was. It finished in the middle, okay? So that's not really good on volume above accumulation. So that's not really a good candle to say that there is consistency in the market and that money's coming in because it's fluctuating up and down. Then you've got this big bulky candle, which came from Trump, but Trump, of course, screwed us, and then he marked it all the way lower. And you guys are now seeing it, what he said about Charles Schwab. He made 2.5 billion. He made 900 million. But we spoke about that 2 days ago, man. And then yesterday's candle couldn't even close positive. Okay? I said this before. You need 3 days. 3 days of blue volume, and it has to close strongly like this one here. Has to close strongly. And then the 4th day would give you the follow through. Are we in that phase yet? Do I think we've got that? I mean, JPMorgan does think that the market still has a little bit more freedom to go lower, but I just want this one last order here, last pool of liquidity on Bitcoin. Because if Bitcoin comes back into the 70K region, it will be going back into the longest period of consolidation that it had before. So then that is naturally going to trigger interest from people, which is why the order flow right here, when you zoom out, you can see that there is this cluster of orders right here. And it's like they are in fear. There's more Bitcoin to be bought than there is to be sold. Just look. Can you see how all these orders right here, they'll all be in place? This is, you've got these orders that have been up here for quite some time. Look, the longer the line is, the longer it's been in here. This has been in for 114 days. This brother's waiting for quite some time to sell his Bitcoin, okay? But you're seeing now, you see this line here where it effectively ends. It's investors are trying to take advantage of the prospect that Bitcoin could spike up in volatility. And it's just orders that are coming in now. But when you look at these orders over here, you see that they have been in here for quite some time, but there's more of a cluster of them. There's more interest to see Bitcoin lower. This is good news because you're now identifying levels of support. That's your logic. So if you're going to buy Bitcoin and you're buying it when it's going up, you're mugging yourself because you're buying it into people who are selling it. You want to buy it when it's taking a nosedive. And even if it drops and continues to drop, you are, in terms of probability, you are improving the odds of price at least coming back up because you are buying into support. That's what you're doing. And the support is there. Like, you've got the liquidity stacked at these lows. Okay. Yeah, it is, man. Any questions? Anything else? Here we go. What have we got? What do you think? No. Just send it to, yeah, they just send it into the chat, Multiverse DJ. There's part on the website. The real question is, where did 1.5 trillion in liquidity come from in a bear market? That is very true. Where did $1.5 trillion come into play? Well, it's retail when you think about it. And hedge fund managers are deemed as retail as well. You either make the market or you're not. Hedge fund managers provide liquidity. Brokers also provide liquidity. They have positions too. It's not just retail dude behind a computer. No. Hedge fund managers are also deemed as retail. They just got bigger pockets. You know, large speculators. You're either making a market or you're not. And if you're not market making, you're retail. So it's all over the spot. Tino, any good book to recommend in times like these? Japanese candlesticks. Steve Nissen. What's the PPI saying? The PPI saying that it's negative. So the cost of goods and services has come down. Oh, this is the 3-day chart. Hold on, let's just go into the 4-hour. Here we go. That's where we are. What's the NASDAQ and the S&P saying? The S&P is, I don't like that. When S&P goes down and NASDAQ goes down, and then Bitcoin's like, yo, we're stuck at these highs. What's your forecast on XRP? Money management. Yeah, okay, they've done money. They got money in wait. Sorry, bro. I'm joking. My forecast on XRP is, well, yesterday it was at just under $2, and the day before that it was just over $2, and today we are at $2. There's my forecast. XRP formation. That's it. Can't go above $2, won't go below $2. So what price action do you want me to tell you? $5? See, you load up XRP in the chart, and the chart crashes. Like, forget that, man. Go back to Bitcoin. Okay, then. Cool. Anything else, ladies and gentlemen? Looks like everyone sold out of Bitcoin and went to gold. The reverse sailor strategy, that's probably true. During Bitcoin's 6-month sideways movement, a large number of orders at the 40, 70, 47K range remained unfilled. Given that, what makes you think the 70K range will get filled now? It's not a case of whether it will get filled or not. We're waiting for the logic to... We're applying the logic that there is a number of liquidity there's a number of orders down here that show that they're interested in buying Bitcoin. Okay. But because Bitcoin's volatility is so wild, it can shoot up, sweep the liquidity to then only come back down again. Okay. But again, it's the perception of value, right? Right now, dollar has taken a nosedive. Bitcoin fundamentally should be going up, which is what it's doing right now. But the problem we've got is the speculation behind the stock market going down and NASDAQ trading lower as well. Okay. And we've got this imbalance down here that could be a problem for us. It could lead us to believe that investors ain't really going to be buying US stock right now because the purchasing power of the dollar is dead. They're not buying bonds. Now, if Bitcoin tethers away from or decouples away from it all, okay, and like this time last week when Bitcoin decoupled from the stock market going down and Bitcoin stayed at the highs, and then all the posts were coming out that Bitcoin decoupled, and then at the weekend you got violated. The same thing could be happening again this weekend, ladies and gentlemen. So just take that into consideration, okay? And with that being said, I will say to you all, if you haven't done so already, get to the Traders Reality website. You get all sorts of fun and games. You get access to checklists, which are strategies behind the hybrid system. All right, this is in the Platinum membership. You also get trade setups with the Platinum membership. But I do strongly recommend that you take the free course, Breaking Down the Hybrid System. This is free. Do it, and it's going to help you understand how to trade with the hybrid. You want to expand on that? Get involved with the courses, the additional courses that are available for you on scalping and, of course, exo charts. All right? But start here to give you a breakdown of what it is you're dealing with and how to understand how to use it. Once you've done that, get over to the Platinum, and then you'll be able to understand the strategies behind the hybrid. There's one that is the breaking down the macros. Okay, so this is where I break down the macroeconomics. So what's the CPI? What's the PPI? What's everything? And how do I take that information and trade it? And what trading information can I get from it to provide setups that I give on a day-to-day basis? So that's all in the Traders Reality website, and it's pinned to the top of the chat. And of course, it's in the description. Now, Bitcoin is making a little bit of a move to the upside. Just be very mindful because the stock market is down and Bitcoin likes to front run. Okay. So if you are in profits, just do the due diligence and pay yourselves. And if it keeps on going up, fine. Just be careful. Just take some money off the table, something. All right. And leave runners. Let the runners play into the chart. Okay. And then if you do get a retrace and you want the confirmation that the move to the downside is going to be sustained and they're going to keep on going up from there, then you can start adding to your position. But just take some profits and then put it back in. Play the game. Don't go balls in and be like, yeah, Bitcoin to the moon. And then you've got the stock market completely coming out of risk and Bitcoin's just shooting up. It's evident that it's demonstrated itself as not the hedge yet because gold's the one that's got the priority and it keeps on shooting up. So just take that into consideration, ladies and gentlemen. If anything wild happens, then obviously I'll be doing a live later on this evening. If it doesn't happen, I'll be tuning into you all on Monday. Mad love and respect, guys. Hit the like on the way out, and I'll tune into you soon. Peace. Stop.